I had a crore in savings. I thought I was a king. 1.5 years, all money gone. House eat your money a lot faster than you imagine. My salary was 25,000.
in the first couple of years.
30,000 deliveries every single day ourselves. For 1.5 years, we woke up at 1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
I figured that, both our people as well as the cows will die if we follow this figure. People ask us this question, hey, Kishore, are you an NGO or are you a business? We are an honest business. Sits Farm is a promise from a dad to his son saying that we'll produce the best possible milk. Take up one idea, make it your life, and leave every other idea alone. Companies are built over decades.
Wonderful. I want to start by asking you, who is Kishore?
Okay, that's a tough question. But Tarun, I'll take a moment to congratulate you on building this space, right? It seems so wonderful, guys. We always have sometimes ideas of what it is to build our country, what it is to build India, right? This space is an example of that, right? I felt so happy just to see a space like this exist, right? This is part of creating the country, creating the companies that we always wanted, right? So thank you, congratulations, and thank you for doing it. So who is Kishore? I don't know. I'm trying to discover that myself. Starting Sits Farm was part of discovering myself, right? I don't know what moved me. This is what I try to figure out all my life. I went to LFJC in Uppal, from Kukatpalli to Uppal every day, trying to study, get into IIT. Then it was just, have to crack IIT. I couldn't say whether I had the discipline to be it, but the goal was what was motivating me then. All my life, right? I think hopefully we'll talk about it. Trying to discover myself, trying to figure out what I wanted, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? This is a journey of self-discovery for me.
Yeah, and then I think we are trying to unveil some of that today, right? You've built this beautiful company, Sits Farm, which is doing so well. It is a very inspiring brand for all of us. And the idea behind today's conversation with you is to know about Sits Farm, but also to know a little more about you, right? Tap into how you made this beautiful company, this large company that we have in our city, and what led you there. So when I ask who is Kishore, I'm trying to understand, what has happened in your childhood and then the journey from there. So can you start off by telling some things about your childhood, some of the things that you can think of and relate to during that time?
Yeah. I grew up in a family where my parents, always pushed, they said, only if you study, you'll be something in your life. Chadivite munduku veltavu, otherwise you're done, right? This was always constantly put in our heads. My mother would sit with me, whether it is 4 a.m. in the morning or 1 p.m. at night. Whether she understood it or not, she would sit with me while we were studying. She was always there, wanting us to do better. So this thing was always there. And we always, like any middle class family, the values were there, right? Always try and do good or be good, right? The values were there. So I tried to study as hard as though I was not inherently motivated, I kept studying, got into Little Flower, went there, then somehow pushed myself, struggled through, got into IIT. And after I got into IIT, I did everything other than studying. Second year, I was the best fresher volunteer, because I worked so hard, for the hostel, trying to do as many activities as possible. I got the best fresher volunteer. Third year I was a general secretary for maintenance, took care of bathrooms, took care of everything in the hostel. Fourth year they gave me Spirit of Nehru. The hostel's name was Nehru because I was a good part of the hostel all 3 years. So did everything other than studying because I felt part of it, right? And fourth year I realized, oh shit, I need to read a little bit. Quickly gathered up what I could, gave GRE, and went to the US. And after going to the US, I realized, okay, now I need to focus, study, and Then yeah, did a master's, followed it with a PhD. I loved science, so I
So why after you going to US you felt that you need to focus on studies?
because I felt like I didn't do that in the 4 years I was in IIT. So
That was your last chance, so to say.
I thought, I should, size up and actually spend, maybe I was doing everything other than, the first time I was away from home, right? I never wanted to go back home. I loved the hostel. I would only go back once every 7-8 months home. Summer holidays I stayed back. I guess it's part of, first time I was independent, right? I was, trying to figure out that spot probably I loved. And and it's a process of discovery.
Self-discovery.
US, wanted to focus, wanted to study. First 2 years, I lived with roommates like all Indians do to save money. Third year, I decided that I want to live all by myself. So went and lived with an American family. It felt good when I started. It was super scary, right? Because, come Friday night, you don't have anybody to speak to. But I experienced it for almost a year and a half. The other side of American life where you don't have anybody to talk to, right? Shoveling the snow. I mean, pretty much doing everything yourself. But at the end of the day, nobody to speak to, right? So I tried that, experienced that, then went and worked for Intel. I went to work for Intel. I had a couple of job offers. I went to Intel for samosas. Right outside, there was ISKCON that would, every Friday, you would have fresh samosas. I loved the warm weather of Arizona. That's where I worked. And it was a classic career mistake for me. I went into I specialized in something else. I went to work in some other space that was completely different. But yeah, I was always trying to do the opposite of, what would happen naturally, So in the process, sort of discovering myself.
How long were you in US for?
A total of 12 years.
Okay.
12 years, yeah.
Wow. So you studied there. I think you did your PhD as well there, and then you worked for Intel.
Yes.
Then. And while you were mentioning this journey, you mentioned that your mom used to get up even at 4 a.m. or then sleep at 1 a.m. right if required. While you were studying, she would be there with you all the time.
Yeah.
And while I was reading about you, I read that for your deliveries of Set Farm, you used to get up at whatever time was required, right? Starting by 4:30, 4 o'clock, 3:30, right?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to get to is, what are some of the values that you incorporated from your parents in early life that you went on using later?
Yeah. I'm a tough nut. I don't give up. No matter what happens, right? I think those are the foundations that happen without you knowing, right?
Yeah.
The ability to work hard, right? Come what may, right? Ability to push through, come what may. The foundation happened early on, without me realizing it. See, we went through a lot of pain in Sets Farm, right? Today, you see Sets Farm where, we do about 30,000 deliveries every single day ourselves. But today it seems easy for us, but the path in the early days was super tough. Today morning also we had an accident of one of our vehicles in Chevella, but I didn't get a call. Our team handled it seamlessly well. But the early days it was just us, right? First 17 years I lived in Hyderabad of my life. Next 4 years IIT Kharagpur. 2020 to 23 I was in the US. So good part of when you probably figure out India, I was outside. And then I come and start something that is so on the ground, right? Where you have to deal with, farmers, police, the rural life. It hits you much more harder than you imagine, right? Because I never ever had the experience of dealing with, how do you, talk with something that is so on the ground. But we got hit. But we figured it out slowly but gradually.
I think you mentioned a very key point, that hitting you very hard after you come back. And I think in my personal story also, I have experienced a little bit of that. I had worked and lived in Australia for about 8 years. And then after I came back and started Kokarma, we used to deal with a lot of people who used to do construction work and interior works, right? So you had to deal with painters, carpenters, all these people that I'd never dealt with in my life. And just it hits you hard, but you also come with a blank paper where you're not like, accustomed to whatever you'd seen before.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of helps. So do you think things like those help you because you were in US and because you came with fresh eyes?
Yeah. See, first is values, right? We said this is how we'll do it. And great point, right? All the people, that part of the initial team of Sits Farm were not from a dairy background. See, we didn't know dairy. We knew that cows produce milk. So let's take that milk, put it in the most cleanest way possible. When I say filter it and give it back to our customers. And that is what we did. And that is what we do every single day, right? How do you give it in the most cleanest form? We've learned a little bit of, how to deal with equipment, larger equipment, and all of that. But that is what the value is, right? So, we were all outside, right? We actively hire from outside the industry. We do need people from within the industry now because now the industry is quite big. But all the early people, first 7-8 years, were all from outside. So we came in. So if you look at larger dairy, if you're interested, I know whether it is interesting or not. Yeah.
We get to Sits Farm's story.
Yeah.
But I want to get to why your focus is on values and things of those nature, right? The soft skills. Why were you focused on that? Did that come from your family? Did that come from your friends or the environment? Where did that come from in you?
I think definitely from family, right? Where you grow up, how you grow up from, from your parents, from the immediates around, immediate family is where you pick up your values. Definitely friends, what you do. I think that's where, at least our values come in. See, I often get asked this question. I'm getting back to one time, there's one, a person who came to our farm. She asked me, Kishore, are you an NGO or are you a business? See, I said that, we're an honest business. Why can't we be an honest business? We tell our customers what it costs to produce a liter of milk and we try and take it from them. We don't say, it costs 60 rupees to produce a liter of milk. So our price, 60 rupees is the price that is set by the market. We say this is what it's costing us to produce. Please support us and give us this price. That is how we've always communicated. I think those values, but what is not allowed is we'll never ever, there's nothing else other than milk in it. That is a value that is never broken. And a lot of people also ask us, Kishore, it is okay when you're small. As you grow bigger, won't the values get diluted? When in the first 4 or 5 years of your existence, if we would have tested for 4 or 5 parameters, in milk, today we test for over 45 parameters. Wow. We've gotten more insane into milk, right? We've gotten a lot more into depth of milk. We looked for 5 different antibiotics, 2 hormones, 1 after. We've gotten stronger and stronger into milk, right? And my promise is we go even deeper, right? We take whatever science is out there. We are buying a grass chromatography in about another few weeks. Get into the depth of milk. Milk is fairly complex. They say milk has 1 lakh molecules in it. We understand a few, right? How do we get deeper into milk, understand it far better, and produce milk that is truly world standard?
Yeah. I'll come back again to the values question. As a founder, right, whatever you have as values will trickle down in your organization, in your culture. It'll reflect in the sort of customers that you have.
Yeah.
So why are values important as a founder, and how do you communicate that to your team?
Yeah. Great question, Tarun. I think last year we realized that we're becoming more people. See, initially, I think the core set of people work with you very closely with you. The entire team is working very closely, and the values sort of get distilled down very easily, right? But as you grow slightly more, not everybody interacts with you or with me directly. So we did a company-wide core skills training, right? Sitting all together and say, what are the values that are important to you? What are the values that we can commit to? right?
So you did that exercise, whole
We
exercise.
did that exercise last year with with another, an expert, right? We did that exercise over a period of 4 months. It took us a long time to distill the core values and say, yeah, this is what we can do. This is what, again, don't over-promise, under-promise, but over-deliver even on the values. Right? So we did that exercise, super important.
Yeah. And what are some of those values? Like 3-4 values you can tell us?
Accountability, transparency, quality, innovation, right? The core values of what you are as a person, right, are essentially reflected into corporate values as an organization.
Okay, wonderful. So you were in US, you studied there, you were working happily in Intel. What changed? What made you come to India and get this started? Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, it was definitely a process of discovering myself, right? Even at Intel, first 3 years at Intel, I was in a role that did not push me. It was okay, great job, I was getting paid well, but I was too comfortable, right? It was easy. So last 3 years at Intel, I went into a role that was 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 at night.
Wow, okay.
It was an intense, small 25 people team. We were putting together a $250 million facility. This was a new technology that Intel was working on. And I just got an opportunity, jumped into it. Loved every part of it. Travel, worked with suppliers to bring new equipment in manufacturing. Before that, I was trying to do everything else, right? One weekend, I went and spent, off the Seattle coast, I did a wind turbine class, right? So this is actually building a wind turbine, a working wind turbine with your own hands. One weekend, I went and spent installing a solar module in a house. So I was trying to figure out what would give me that kick. And last 3 years, Intel definitely gave me that, right? Because we were building something from the ground up, small 20 people team that was, putting together. So then I think I sort of started discovering this is what probably gives me that larger kick. That's when I realized, yeah, let's go back home. I had, a crore in savings. I thought I was a king with the 1 crore. Moved back to India and, started. 1.5 years, all money gone. The cows eat your money a lot faster than you imagine, right? But, I think it was process of discovering, right? So you keep going after something to figure yourself out, what gives you that kick and,
So tell us about that kick. Why is that kick important and what was that kick for you here?
Otherwise, you're never settled, right? You need that, I was trying to feel, what would give me that high. I got more than my share of high, doing such farm. Definitely the downs gave me a lot of kicks but truly satisfying. There's something that pushes the limits of you. It may or may not be money, right? May or may not be the most money making thing, but definitely that pushes you. The deep scare, the deep you say the stomach churning experiences, right? Kal kya hoga pata nahi, right? How do you pay rent the next month? All of those, unless you experience it.
It's funny how as entrepreneurs we always want this pain, right? Without that, I don't think we can live.
You get used to pain early in your life. You keep wanting that.
Wanting more of it. Huh? Wonderful. So you came to India. Did you do anything between Intel and Sitsfarm? Was there any ventures, trials between them?
Yeah, so after I came back, I started 2 or 3 things at the same time. Because I didn't know whether agriculture would work or not. It was a great fancy idea that I would do agriculture. So I started this. I started, doing a little bit of agriculture. Then I started another organization called Stimulus. We would go to engineering colleges, do practical engineering education. And I also started a process consulting, because I was a process engineer in Intel factory. I thought I'll go work with companies and do process consulting. But both the other things I was not in control, right? Process consulting, unless you're working with the company is not moving with the speed. I felt it was very slow. Same thing with with stimulus, I was dependent on the engineering college to give me an entry, right? So you would go pitch, things would not move. So I thought I needed to be in control. Control came with a lot of risk, but I wanted to be in control. And when a customer said, "I loved your milk," that gave me a bigger kick. So I dropped everything else, and that's how I got full time into.
And then that your 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. sort of work hours, you brought that here, right? With your three things that you were doing.
Absolutely right. So, I'll tell you guys what we went through in the first 1.5 years. We started with 4 in the morning, 4 to 5 milking cows, 5 to 5:30. 5 to 5:30 was packaging. Initially, we started with stainless steel bottles. Then, said, can't scale. And then we did plastic pouches. 5:30 to 6:30 was home delivery. And the same guys would come back, cut grass, feed cows. 4 became 3:30, demand increased. 3:30 became 3, 2:30, 2. For 1.5 years, we woke up at 1:30 in the morning.
Wow.
Right? And by 1.5 years, I figured that both our people as well as the cows will die if we follow this rigor. And that's when...
I think everybody must be wondering, when did you sleep? What time did you sleep?
We figured that out. But it was pretty intense. But we slowly, then we said, okay, we need to chill milk, we need to invest in processing, and that's how we took the next steps of the journey.
So, Sit Farms, right? How did you get the idea of Sit Farm?
Yeah. So, Siddharth is our elder son's name. So when we were in the US, we had one more issue other than not having a kick was, our son was not gaining weight. So he had allergies and we were always looking for, good milk. Our doctor would say, he's not drinking milk, so give him more milk. He was not drinking milk, so we started giving him cream. Cream is constant milk with much higher fat percentage. So we started giving him cream. He was still not, gaining weight. So that is when we thought maybe come back, grandparents will be there. That was also another part of the reason why we moved back. And so it was naturally, we were always looking for good food for him, making sure his allergies would subside. And milk was something that we were constantly looking for. And when we felt, okay, maybe there is a gap here. There's nobody who is giving you this guarantee. Why not do something like this? Initial thought was never to make it into a large organization, maybe one farm, earn $1 lakh, sit happily and live happily ever after was the thought initially. That's how, so Sits Farm is a promise from a dad to his son, saying that we'll produce the best possible milk. And that is what we deliver to customers. My wife was the person behind the name. She is the one who said, I have no art or no this thing in me. She is the one that suggested, help me with the logo and, help create this.
No, that's beautiful. I think that promise from a father to a son, that whole story, I think is amazing. I think it resonates with a lot of people in your company and it resonates with a lot of customers. Yeah. And I have a personal story as well here, which I think I've shared with you, but I think I'll tell it to the audience as well.
Please.
When my wife Ekta was looking for milk for my son when he was 1 year old, she was researching as to what the best milk would be, and we couldn't find anything which was better than Sits Farm. It was recommended by a lot of people, and that's what we started giving him, right? And then that's what he's been having for the past 5 years. So my personal thank you to you for creating such a beautiful product, which everybody in Hyderabad can consume and other places as well.
Thank you, Tarun. It definitely made my day. I mean, it is not just me, right? We are about 800 people.
Yeah.
Each one of them believes in this promise, right? They all work hard, they put out their energy. I don't think I thank them enough every day, but all of them together, put this effort to make, each one of us at the plant, people who work with our farmers are equally driven. Right? All of them, if something is not happening perfectly, all of them flag, whatever is not working, correct it. I think great sort of team that is making it. It's not just me, it is the entire org and this entire team that built Sits Farm now.
Of course. So when you started, right, you said you started with one farm and you had no background in milk or agriculture, from what I understand. So how did you get started with that first farm and what gave you the confidence that I don't have any background, but I can still do this?
See, I didn't think too much, but I did have help of family, right? The first set of few people came from references of family members. and that's how we've hired the first set of people. And I think, I mean, a lot of people ask us this question: how do you hire, right? In the beginning, you don't have a choice, right? You work with whom you have, and people with not so much intent drop out anyways. But the best, I was lucky that I got good people right in the beginning. They stuck with us and kept doing it. Some of the early people who joined us still are there with us after 10, 11 years, 12 years. They're still with us, continue to grow. And I mean, that is what is beautiful about building a company, right? You give a guy who has not even studied till 7th class an opportunity, and he works wonders. We have a guy called Srinu. I think studied very little, but the first processing facility he ran without issues. If there was any problem with any tool in the company, he can fix the entire, right from doing electrical wiring to fixing anything in the equipment. He learned it himself. Opportunity, right? I mean, there's so much talent in India. If you give them the opportunity, I think India will grow to any level, right? As entrepreneurs, this is what is super beautiful, right? I think you create the space where excellence can come out. I think a lot of wonders happen.
So, and then you started with 20 cows from
Yes.
what I learned. So tell us about that journey, like how you grew your cows, how you grew it in the first couple of years.
Yeah. So, had a book written by Navard. So it's scary, right? How do you select a cow? I used to have a doctor called Ravi. I mean, he lives in Vizag now. Sir, Andam Jusi Konandi. And means look at the beauty of a cow and buy. How do you look at the beauty of a cow? How do you look at a cow? He would explain this, sir, features aisa hona chahiye. And then, read the book, right? Nabard published a book, these are the features. And it was all bookish knowledge, right? And that's how we went to Coimbatore. First set of 5 cows we bought in Hyderabad from another farmer. Next set, we went to Coimbatore. And there are a lot of tricks in cattle trading, by the way. You go to Coimbatore or any place far away, you buy 1 cow. The trader knows that you bought a cow. You can't go back with 1 cow. You need to fill up your entire vehicle with 10 cows so you can pay receipt. Transport those days was 25,000 per 1 lorry.
Wow.
So if you buy 1 cow, which is about 40,000, you got to buy another 10 cows. So he'll jack up the price of all the next 9 cows.
Oh.
Because he knows that you come from Hyderabad. There's a lot of tricks, right? Figuring out all of that, making sure you stay enough time, 2-3 days, look at the cow. It's actually producing that milk or not. There's a whole bunch of things. And taking care of animals, not easy, right? So when these are live animals, you need to put a lot of effort, understand. They've traveled so long when you brought them for the first time. They have to get used to this place. So definitely, first 2 years was pretty shocking in terms of the learning, in terms of dealing with it. The first time a cow dies, right? You feel responsible, right? And it happens invariably. Any dairy farmer's life, you cannot escape that. So it's a pretty, and making sure they're getting fed. And in the first few years, we didn't know what was the price to pay. We would grow our own grass. Sometimes we fell short, and we would go to the village, talk to the villagers and ask, hey, we want your grass. And we didn't know what price to pay. They would look at this guy crazy and he doesn't know what he's doing. He's buying grass at this price.
Yeah.
And they became great friends eventually, right? So at one point, they figured out that this guy doesn't know, what is the right price to pay grass, but he seems to know how to sell milk. So they said, why don't you sell our own milk? That is how we first started, working with farmers, right? And it's a beautiful journey of learning. I never thought we would work with farmers, right? But that happened naturally for us.
Yeah. So it looks like you have a lot of depth in the whole farming and the milk business. But when you were starting, how much of a research did you do? How much time did you spend in that? How much time did you spend from idea to selling your first milk packet?
It was about 6 months or so. Even when I was coming back from the US, I wanted to do something in food. So I spent a week at Michigan State trying to understand. It was a week course, trying to understand food processing. I visited a few farms in California, and I was just trying to understand how large-scale farming happens.
So you
there.
did some of that research in US?
Yeah, but 10, 15 days, not a whole lot. After I quit my job, I had 3 months. We were selling off our house. Move time, there was time, so we were doing whatever research was possible.
So mentally Sit Farms had started back then.
Yeah. No, though the name didn't come into existence. Yeah, I wanted to do agriculture.
So tell us about the name, and I also know that your first ever pamphlet was also designed by your wife Hema. Tell how that played, how she came into the business, and how big a role that plays for you and Sits Farm. Here again, I have a personal story. My wife Ekta is a co-founder in Kokarma, and I know how that dynamic sort of plays. But I want to know from you how that played between you and Emma.
Yeah. So, my wife was good in art. Generally, she came back. When we came back, she would make these cakes, right? Beautiful cakes. She had the name of the thing that she put up was Frolic Cakes. So she made some 150 beautiful cakes in the first 2 years. And at that time, today you have a bunch of brands, a bunch of stores that do these beautiful cakes. But that time, there were not many. Only Lebanon was there. And yeah, we needed a flyer, so I asked her, what to do. So she put up one beautiful logo. She created a beautiful logo. It's not the same logo that we have now, but it's a nice round with a tractor, with a kid playing, all of that. Eventually, we changed it because the logo wouldn't scale. And green fluorescent. It's still there on our Facebook page. Green fluorescent beach may logo, this side and this side. Our cows feed on natural 3 lines here, 3 lines there. The first journey we would sit in communities. Along with the flyer, have people sample our milk, and I would sit in the community. Our team is doing it now, the event now, but first 3-4 years, I would sit in L&T. L&T was our star community because L&T may 1,000 flats, right? Out of them, 850 used to be occupied at any given time, all NRIs, right? Over the 9. These are my guys that would pay for my mill. That is where we would sit most good number of weekends. Hill Ridge, Villas and Hill Ridge, these are the 3 communities that we started with, and slowly word of mouth. But yeah, that was the first flyer. We distributed that for next 4 years.
So 2 questions on that. One is, how important is it for an entrepreneur to integrate their family along their journey? Because I think it's a very long journey, very hard journey.
Yeah.
And I think you did it beautifully with your family. And the second question is, how did you identify these first set of customers that gated communities are my market and didn't go the supermarket route or didn't make other choices that other traditional milk brands would make?
Yeah. I felt that maybe this is the people that would understand what we are trying to do, what we are trying to communicate, that is how we said, we will, it was probably just, thought that maybe this is where we should try our luck first.
So it happened intuitively. You didn't try any other. You didn't try supermarkets in the beginning. You didn't try.
No, we didn't. It was
distribution.
Purely
purely
D2C, purely direct to customer from the very beginning. We would just supply, and we were from the very beginning till 22. We were over 95% all direct to customer only, right? Because that's how. A lot of people, right? If you look at Hyderabad, a lot of people said, why are you not, for the first many years, we were not in Banjara Hills and Jubilee Hills. We were only in Gachibowli, Gachibowli to Kukatpalli, that belt. And we were doing a little part of Jubilee Hills. Here, people experimented. People gave us a chance, right? Because, and people in Banjara Hills and Jubilee Hills probably already had farms that, they were procuring their own milk from. People in this side of the town trusted us. They were willing to, give money to a new brand, right? They were, sort of, I don't know, somehow.
Early movers, as they say, right? In any startup, you thought that you could find them here in this sort of locality.
That's how it happened. The only thing that we did was the flyer would give us the first set of 3 or 4 customers. When you do a flyer, 3 or 4 people would try us, and then word of mouth, right? Then we would sit in the community and do a event, and that is how the next set of customers came to us.
So how long did it take for you to like? So after 6 months, you had your first customer, first milk packet that you sold.
Yeah.
Then what happened in the next 6 months? How many packets were you selling in that?
So
that
2016, 1,000 liters of milk, so 1,000 customers. 2017, 2,400 customers a day on average. Then 4,800. Then that kept. First few years we doubled every year. Now we grow about 40-45% year on year is how we grow. Now we serve about 30,000 customers ourselves. Through Quickcom partners, we reach we reach about 60,000 people daily in Hyderabad. And Bangalore, we reach another 15,000 people.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about what the current distribution is like? Which cities do you do and how you do that?
Yeah. So we present in 3 cities now. Hyderabad. Hyderabad is our main city. This is where we started. Bangalore is our second city. Third is Pune. We just started Pune 3 months ago. Each place has its own manufacturing facility. For us, I would invite all of you, any of you interested, every Saturday we run an open house. We've been doing this for the past 9 years. The only way to build trust is to really show people what we do. So every Saturday we host an open house. I try and be there every other Saturday. Show people exactly how we do the process. We run an average of 10,000 tests daily. Hard to believe, right? 10,000 tests is impossible. But we actually do close to 12,000 tests every single day. We test for sugar, salt, urea, hydrogen peroxide, caustic soda, baking soda, formalin, 5 types of antibiotics, tetracyclines, beta-lactams, sulfonamide, streptomycin, chlorophenol, 2 hormones, 1 aflatoxin. Every single day, every 40-liter can goes through this testing. That is the depth we build into it. How do I communicate this, right? Hard to believe, right? So we bring people to the farm, show them exactly how we do this process, right? Every Saturday, whether it is Hyderabad, whether it is Bangalore, whether it is Pune, we run farm visit in each of these locations at the manufacturing facilities. That is how we work on building that trust. Don't hide behind, just writing things. Want to prove that depth to our customers every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you touched a very important point there. I think as entrepreneurs, right, it's very important to communicate directly to your customers about how you're building what you're building, right? So I think in your initial days as well, when you're visiting these gated communities, you would talk to them directly and say that I'm building this milk brand and, we are giving it at this price because we're doing so many tests.
Yeah.
And we're going through such a rigorous process of, manufacturing this milk.
Yeah. See, we, a lot of people, right? So everything we did about building Sid's farm, right, is sort of not, is counterintuitive. A lot of people, in the initial days, they said Sid's farm, I can't even pronounce this name, right? A lot of our, some of our agents who did call it Sid this. When somebody said Siddiqui's farmhouse, every possible distortion, right?
Siddiqui's farmhouse.
Siddiqui's farmhouse. See, why didn't you name it Lakshmi? Or that time Tirumala, was very, very popular, right? People always said, why not name something that India believes in? We said, this is what we are. What you put into a brand is super important, right? How you brand it, all of that are secondary, right? And and also distribution channels, right? We initially the first agent typically that we picked ran away with our first 17,000 rupees of our hard-earned money. Wow. Then I said, we will play it on our own terms, however hard it is, right? Even when we work with our farmers, we work with them directly to make sure that we get that quality, right? We're able to, whatever things that if you feel are important, we can lay that structure very, very clear. So we control the channel, we control, our deliveries just so that, we maintain that control over the business. And that is how we built it, even it was software.
Yeah. And I've noticed that there's a lot of loyalty around your brand, both with your customers and internally within your company.
Yeah.
So how do entrepreneurs build that loyalty with their customers? Can you give them some tips on what they can do?
I think communicating constantly and fixing, right? So even for us, I think, as you grow, maintaining that excellence in customer support, constantly revisiting it, constantly making sure customers are always satisfied, right? Because all it takes is not few days of not delivering well, because milk is something that you want every day delivered on time. It doesn't matter if you produce Amrut also, if you don't deliver it on time, it is useless for a customer, right? So we have a lot of work, as a brand, that we have to do, constantly figure out excellence, right? I think as entrepreneurs, I think for your particular thing that you're doing, you know what it is, right? You know what to do. Constantly drive that, right? Constantly drive that depth. Work with your customers and deliver that quality, deliver that depth every single day. And build systems that can deliver this, right? Because you might not be able to drive it every single day. How do you make sure at all aspects of the business you drive this depth, right? Whether it is customer support, tech, how do you onboard your customers? Are you doing it well? Are people speaking to your customers well, right? Is the language, the mode of communication well? Every interface, I think, how do you build that depth into it?
Yeah. No, I see a lot of passion in you, Kishore. And you've been doing this for about, 12 years, or since 2013. Yeah. I want to know how your typical day looks like. Like, what do you do on a day-to-day basis to sustain this passion?
Yeah. I definitely like what we are building as a company, right? See, I feel initial years it was about surviving and doing what was needed. Today I see 50 years ago India didn't have enough milk. Thanks to all the large dairies of India, thanks to Amul, thanks to Heritage, thanks to Vijaya, thanks to all the cooperatives, large private dairies, we solved this problem. Today India has milk to drink. Can we say our milk is best in the world? We are not there yet. I see Sid's Farm as a small part of the quality journey of India, right? We want to create the best milk in the world, and we want to be a small part of the journey, and we'll do whatever it takes for us to be there, right? I want us to define the standards, right? I want whatever it is, right? From packaging to customer excellence, whatever it is that we have to do, we want to build that. It takes time. Meaningful companies are built over decades, and I have to do whatever it is to sustain myself, to do whatever it takes to build a team that will sustain it over the long term. That is what we want to do.
Yeah, and I think that vision of creating the best milk in the world, I think that sort of helps you, sustain this passion, amazing passion that you have, right? I want to understand, from you personally, right? You mentioned as to how you have done all of these things, but how does your day look like? Like, what do you do? Like, does it come from spirituality? Does it come from other things that you do? Where does Kishore drive all of this from?
Yeah, definitely spirituality, right? See, when I was in Kharagpur, the art of living was a big race, but there was this Kishore that was like he was a very nice guy, but he would not open up, right? In my mind, it was this going, and how can something change me? I was so resistant to that. And 3 years in the US, I did art of living, and it blew me, right? It did something to me that was unbelievable. There is that people talk about that Krishna Tattvam, right? I experienced that. It was amazing. Next 3 years, I did everything in art of living, and had a beautiful. Then somehow that thing went. I don't know why, right? And few years ago, to 2019, I did Isha. I did Shambhavi. Again, beautiful, right? It gave. From the beginning, right, I was always a Vivekananda guy, right? There's one quote of Vivekananda that I always believed in. Take up one idea, make it your life. Every part of yourself should be full of that idea, and leave every other idea alone, right? That is something that always, gave me a lot of energy.
Beautiful. Can you repeat that again for everyone?
Take up one idea, take up one idea, every part of your cell should be full of that idea. Leave all other idea alone, right? This is by Swami Vivekananda.
Beautiful. Can you have a round of applause for that, please?
I drew a lot of strength from what Sadhguru said, right? I definitely find a lot of solace there. So I try and practice as much as possible, though sometimes I'm not as disciplined. Yeah, I mean, my day starts like any other day. It used to be very, very early in the morning, long time ago. Now, thanks to the team, I don't have to, start with looking at sales, start with looking at key metrics of the org, have a good team that makes sure I stay on top of my calendar. I have a founder's office that makes sure, sit with all the teams, go through it in a very focused way, end it at 7:38.
So what is the size of Sits Farm now? How many people do you have and how many people directly report to you? You've mentioned founder's office. How many people are there in that?
So there again, we break some rules. I think about 20 people report to me, but I don't, work with all of them every single day. But, about 17, 18 people report to me. Overall, an 800 people org. We have, out of that, we work with 5,500 farmers. 100 people work directly in the villages where our milk comes from. 200 to 250 people that work in our milk and the production facilities. 150 or 200 people work here in the city. Because we do a good part of our deliveries ourselves, there is an entire nighttime team. There are our BTL teams that do events in communities. So it's a fairly... and by the way, some of the work, I know some of you are probably not aware of, some of the work we do with our farmers. We've recently won a $100,000 grant from Swiss Fund for Emerging Markets to do some of the work that we do with our farmers. Now, there's one problem that typically dairy farmers face. It's called mastitis. In Telugu, it's called podugu vapu. It's the swelling of udder through which typically milk productivity drops, right? Cows give milk for about 6 months, 6 to 7 months. Out of that, if a farmer loses 1 month or 30 days of its productive milking time, the season for him is he has not made enough money, right? So how do you solve that problem? How do you detect it at a subclinical level? That is some of the work that we're doing. Raghav Foundation is also giving us another grant to do some of this work. Over the next few years, much more deeper work. We have a 15 people veterinary team that works very closely in the villages too.
I read about the farmpreneur program that you had started. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's constantly evolving. The idea is if any farmer wants to put up a 20, 30 or a 50 animal farm, we help them. We have tie-up with, Axis Bank, Rangde also gives loans. We have 3 NBFCs that we work with along with Axis to help give loans. So we can support them in the journey. One of the conditions though is you have to milk your own cows. You have to do the work yourself, right? Because we feel at this stage in India, unless you do the dairy farming yourself, it's difficult to be profitable. So any entrepreneur is interested, a village entrepreneur is interested in doing it himself, we'd love to partner. And the another condition is he has to be in the villages where we operate, so we can take his milk, provide him the needed support and take it forward.
Wonderful. And then how many farmers are connected with you in this way?
So overall, we are doing this work with every farmer. See, one of the programs that we're doing is we have kept a goal that we will give 1,500 buffaloes as loan in the next 1 year, right? So the idea is, this will increase the milk that we produce in one area. What will also help is it will reduce the cost of moving the milk. So that is the goal that we have set for Vanaparthi, Kosgi and Devarkada. Those are the areas where our buffalo milk builds up. So that is where we're getting into depth of producing. See, Hyderabad loves buffalo milk. So we have to produce more of the good quality buffalo milk, and that's where we are focusing on to produce this.
Okay. Let's talk about some challenges that you had, right? I read a story where you had an instance where some of your team members left overnight and then you had to deal with it, ask for help. Can you tell us about what happened then?
This was dairy farming, right? So any of you who tried dairy farm, right? First thing that you say is how do you solve the labor issue or the problem? And this was very early, and one day some of the people who were working with us said that they will leave. They wanted certain money, and we said we were not able to give that money. So
they demanded?
Yeah, a certain amount of money. It happens in every dairy farmer's life who is trying to do. again, people who don't do it themselves, right? See, I was not milking my own cows, I should have. So we were sitting at 11, close to midnight, we were sitting at the farm. Tomorrow morning's milking, you have to figure out, right? So what we did, we called the people in the village. We were in Sultanpalli near Vardhaman Engineering College. That was our first, where our least farm was. We called some of the farmers and said, hey, can you milk our cows after you milk your cows? And surprisingly, all of them came and helped us early in the morning. They milked our cows first and then went back to their homes to milk. That is how we first started interacting with our farmers, right? Problem became an opportunity. They saw us and said, okay, why don't you take our milk? In fact, I'll tell you one more story. After we started working with farmers, the two villages that we were working with very closely helped them get about 45 lakhs in loans, working with Syndicate Bank at that time. We created some joint liability groups, started. There's one time when, this is not to, if there are any journalists, this is not to offend anybody. There was one guy who came in, wanted to get some money out of us. Okay. I was traveling and this was the first time I traveled outside of Hyderabad after 7-8 years. And they said, hey, I want this money. Otherwise I'll do this.
Like so blackmailing.
Hota hai na, say entrepreneur. So we would, I didn't know how to, I didn't really know what to do with it, right? So I said, wait till Saturday. Somehow convinced him to wait till Saturday, till I come back. And I told one of my farmers, his name is Gopal, he's the Sarpanch of Kachara village now. I told Gopal, I somehow accidentally told him that this happened. He said, sir, nenu vasta. Take me also. So, we were sitting in this chai shop in Samshabad, negotiating with this guy. Gopal was patiently listening and Gopal, opened his purse, mid through the discussion and he removed my photo and he put it on top of him. After my parents, this is the guy I trust the most. And that guy shut off. He just said, sir, mistake aindi, when we inquired, we felt you are the good guys. And that solved the problem, right? Somehow, 2 days ago, I just couldn't, in spite of all the spirituality, when you are in this, right, tomorrow, what God, somebody says you'll put it here in social media, I'll do this, I'll do that. There's nothing, you can do, your brain stops working, right? And, but the way the problem got solved, grateful, right? I don't know how much I helped them, but they helped me a lot more than, what.
No, it's amazing. I think there's a very important lesson in what you're just saying. In the first story where people left you, you went and asked for help.
Yeah.
It is very important as entrepreneurs to go and ask for help when you feel you need it. Yeah. And a lot of people shy away from that.
Yeah.
And then in this story as well, if you didn't call that farmer and ask, say, hey, I don't know what to do, please tell me. You wouldn't have got that help, and God knows what would have happened.
Yeah. And Tarun, you absolutely hate it, right? Please ask for help, right? Sometimes we are too full of ourselves to ask for help. If you ask for help, help comes, right? I think this is, what does entrepreneurship teach us about, right? It is, to reduce yourself, put what is the most, is Kishore important? No, Kishore is not important, Sid's farm is important, because this is something that we are trying to build, do whatever it takes. Kisi ke par pair ke par girna hai, gir jate. As long as it serves as long as it is what is needed for the company, if you are that, you will get what you want, right? I think that you hit it right. Sometimes what it needs is more important, and that is the process of discovering ourselves.
Yeah, and then you mentioned a very, very important lesson here as well, that entrepreneurs are not important, but the vision, what you're trying to build with your company. I also say to my team, do whatever is right for Kokarna.
Yeah.
Nothing else is important.
Super.
Right? And then you're saying the same thing, that do what is right for Sid's farm.
Yeah.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, we are talking about farmers, and I feel that, Sid's farm has mastered this whole challenging supply chain. to distributing to so many families and people,
Yeah.
from the cow to these people. How did you do that? What is your supply chain mastery look like?
It's all great people, right? If you look at our, entire, either the supply chain team that works in the city, about 600, in addition to the 800 people, we also have another 700, 800 delivery partners that deliver every single morning. All of these guys are whom we recruited ourselves, right? We don't use agencies to recruit. These are all people starting with initial 3-4 people, who are cutting our grass and also delivering milk. All of these 800 people, we work with them every day, right? I think it is people, right? If they see the vision, right, of what we are trying to build, I think, that is what is important. If you lay that, if you mean it from the bottom of your heart, people will rally around you in amazing ways, right? I think that is what has to be super crystal clear.
How do you show that vision? Like you mentioned that not everybody directly speaks to you.
Yeah.
So how do you show that vision to such a large group?
I think people read it, right? If you are that, right? If you are restless, and that you want to make it happen at any cost, I think people will read it, right? And people will, people will come and support you in what you're trying to do.
So being honest to yourself, being true to what you're doing, day in, day out, sort of will get read.
And we always ask our people, right? Come here to build your career. This is not a place, to come and do time pass, right? Let it be the best meaningful part of your first 3, 4, 5 years of your career, right? You do it with that intensity, right? Our kick work low. If that is not there, maybe this is not the right place, right? Because we want those sort of people to work for us, right? If you look, we have our median age of the company is probably 25, 26. I'm probably one of the older guys. I have one more, dairy sir who is senior to me, Jagatji. But everybody else is junior, right? There's a lot of energy. If you can give them work that they believe in it. See, if you look at our guys who are doing the event, it is by no means easy work, right? But if you believe in what you're trying to do, right? If you can, all our lives we are selling, right? We are selling ourselves to our spouses, we are selling ourselves to our family, saying that I'm capable. If you can give whatever it is, that, right, and do it intensely, I think that is what makes life and beautiful. And we try and say that as much as possible to our people, and that is what I think we look for.
Do you think any role technology has played in this supply chain journey and in whatever you do in front end as well?
Yeah, so we have a tech team. Though a lot of people think I'm from IT. I'm from manufacturing, right? My PhD was in material science, so I didn't do a lot of IT. But we have a team, about a 15 people team that builds some of the tech for us. Our app is our own app. So when we have a customer facing app through which people order, so that is entirely built in-house by our team. We have a farmer management system that our team is building, all the work that we do with our farmers. All the milk pouring history, for example, that is, somebody else, but we are integrating into our own piece of. So there's a decent tech initiative. You cannot not have tech, right? Initial few years, right? As you rightly said, we were pen and paper. Apartment L&T, Lavender, Block A, Block 1, pen and paper, cow milk 1 packet, buffalo milk 1 packet. This pen and paper, quickly we realized that this would not work. Then we moved to Excel, macros लिख के करते थे, and Shivam wrote all the macros, Shivam Gupta. And then Excel would break. Then we brought in a SaaS tech from Daily Orders, Hyderabad based company. We used them. Then we felt that we needed to invest in tech. Then we started building our own tech. So whatever is needed, we build it. Some we outsource. But I think tech is a super important part of any startup's journey. You can't do without tech.
Yeah, and then evolving as your company grows as well, right? From your paper to Excel to SaaS to building your own tech.
Yes.
Recognizing that when it is required to switch is also very important.
Yes. Absolutely, Tarun. You know it as a founder, right? How much money you have, what can you allocate, but doing those calls at the right time is super important.
Yeah. And then you mentioned about the 10,000 tests that you do in your milk.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Tell us the tech that is used there. How do you do that test?
Yeah. So this is where we all read chemistry in our school, and in our we would first 4 years I would take calls from customers. Pal Oddu, Pal Kavali, or all of those calls initial 4 years. So we would get this question: Kishore, you're not there at the farm 24/7. How do you know the milk is pure? How do you know that your person has not added water? Because it's natural for milk to be light one day. See, cows or buffaloes produce milk for their babies, right? And they produce it according to their need, right? The baby wants a lighter milk, they produce a lighter milk that day. So people naturally have this question, right? I feel milk is lighter. Have you added water to it, right? Natural question. So I needed to convince myself first that because I can't say, yo, trust me, trust my face every single day, right? It's not. So we initially onboarded, there is these kits that you get from National Dairy Development Board. Each kit was 4,000 rupees. You would buy this kit and we would test it. We started using that more and more. That kit would get over in half a day, it would get over. We said, okay, we've studied chemistry, let me figure this out. And we went to Abbott's, wherever all schools buy their testing chemicals. We started, preparing these reagents, right? Reagents for how do you test for sugar, how do you test for salt, how do you test for urea, starches, melamine, vegetable oil, all of these tests we started developing. These are simple 5-second tests that we started building. Then preservatives. Antibiotic testing came later. Because now as we started working with farmers, this is where we collaborate with universities also. How we collaborate with National Institute of Animal Biotechnology to see how we can reduce this cost of antibiotic testing. Antibiotic testing is pretty expensive. We spend 15 lakhs a month only on antibiotic testing, right? You did the strip into milk. The strip will tell you whether there is antibiotic or not. Costs about 150 rupees per strip. So we build that depth gradually, right? Because we felt I can't ask my customers to trust my face, right? How do you build that depth every single day for yourself before you ask your customers to believe in you, right? So that is how we build this depth. Building a lot more tech into it. How do you automate this, right? How do you do all of these things? You put a small bottle here, you have all of your reagents, gets dispensed automatically, optical reader will read the thing and through it, right? All of that are in the process of building. So invest in tech, right? How do you make it better? Right now, good part of it is manual. How do you automate it, right? All of those are things that we are working on.
Awesome, great. So while you were incorporating a lot of these things, obviously you were funding initially. You mentioned that you brought 1 crore from US when you moved. You used a little bit of that. But how did you kept funding your business? And have you raised any rounds of funding? I know that there was a recent funding round. How did that happen? How did you go about it?
Yeah. So for a good part of our life, we were bootstrapped. And till 22, I think 23, we were bootstrapped. We made money, whatever little, kept investing into the business. But realized along the way that, you can't run, last minute, right? That, tomorrow you have to pay salaries and I can't. By the way, in the last 11, 12 years of existence, we've never ever missed, payouts to any of our people or any of our partners. We paid them on time. But it was always like, what is tomorrow? What is tomorrow? It was always, we felt like, and milk needs long-term investments, right? So you need to build world-class factories. You need money for that, right? And one time I was doing a course, I think Isha Insight I was doing, in which Nitin Kamath was there. And I still had this question whether to raise money or not. I asked Nitin this question. It was a virtual class. And, I'm in this dilemma, what do we do? He said, money is a moat, raise it. This is what he said. So that helped.
What did he say again? Money is about?
Money is your moat.
Money is your moat.
You are in a business where you need money. Money is a moat. Raise it, right? I felt, you never know some things, right? Whether that was the right call or not, but not having money puts a lot of discipline on you. Having money takes away some other discipline, right? It invariably happens, right? Because now you feel, hai thoda security hai. I mean, you probably, money goes into maybe some unneeded things, right? But we absolutely need to build world-class factories. You need money. And when you bootstrap and grow, you grow a little more slowly. Shocks happen. You need to have some capital to deal with shocks. Shocks happen in multiple ways, right? I don't want to talk about the shocks because, yeah, you are in an industry that is at the ground level, right? And food, so you need money as a moat.
Can you tell us how much you raised and what valuation?
Yeah, so we raised 9.5 million, 76 crores last year. At this was 1.5 years ago. 2024 is when we raised it. April 2024 at what valuation? 200 crore valuation is when pre-money is when we raised it.
Wow, awesome! How many of you would like to make a 200 crore business?
Yeah, it's not, but the money is not important. But I think, hopefully we will, create something that is meaningful along the way.
Yeah.
And as you grow, right, more ammunition comes your way. Hopefully we'll be able to raise even more money from larger institutions that give you long-term capital over a period of time to build, much better factories.
Yeah. So how have you used that money? And can you give some lessons to entrepreneurs here as to what they should do once money hits their bank account?
Yeah, again, see, I'm making sure you're very, very disciplined in how you're spending it. Growth, obviously some part of the money has to be invested in growth. That is why you take a VC money, right? But also invest in the, if you are a manufacturing company, invest in that manufacturing so that your gross margins get better. For us, some of the investments that we did, how do we invest in better chilling? Right now we're building a state-of-the-art curd facility. 2 years ago, a lot of us assume curd is very, very simple to make. See, milk is easy. All you do is, you're not taking anything out of it, you're not adding anything to it. You heat milk, cool milk, packet it, done. But making something like curd is fairly complex, right? Ghar mein you do half a liter, even if it fails, it's okay. But in a factory, you're doing 1,000 liter batch. If 1,000 liter batch fails, you can't do anything with it, right? So we're building a clean room, right? Much cleaner than ICU for our curd making. Every 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago, every 7-8 batches, one batch would fail. It's a huge load on your, gross margins, everything, because you're getting hit, right? So right now we are investing in that. Curd, each line that you build, right, invest in the state-of-the-art facilities that can get you the best possible quality, right? And eventually gets the quality better, your gross margins improve, right? So grow from the top of your MIS, right? Look at your COGS, look at your production costs, look at your cost of transportation. Then, CM1, CM2, CM3 below, look at where all the right investments need to happen and accordingly.
Yeah, I think you touched on a very important point. I think up until now we were talking about product, story, narrative, all of those things. Yeah. But as entrepreneurs, how important is it to look at numbers and know what your margins are, how to price your product?
Yeah, so absolutely important, right? See, I didn't have any sense of it, right? Till we got around to raising money, I could not wrap my head around it, right? I could not read it. Our guys, Harsha, now Roop, they were doing everything. But for me, if I have to really drive deeper numbers, right? Now I take much more closer look at it. Super important, right? To be able to, and there are a good number of books, right? If you are looking for, I think understanding balance sheet, I forget the author's name, beautifully written, very, very simple language. I think all of these are super, I mean, as a founder, you need to be literate in everything that affects your business. I think each of the costs, putting it in a very crisp MIS is super important. There are a lot of, fractional CFOs that are available that will help, drive you there. No, I understand it very, very clearly, right? I didn't have that understanding, 3 years ago. super important for any entrepreneur to get there, understand his
Yeah,
space.
and I think I got lucky in that aspect because Ekta is from a chartered accountancy background, she's a CA.
Super.
So she looks at a lot of the numbers that we do, right? So
Yeah, if you have a co-founder who is, a finance person, nothing like it.
And then from the sounds of it, it looks like the husband-wife companies or startups in Hyderabad are doing well. We interviewed Aditya Vuchi, last month, and he's also done his company with his wife.
Yeah, and it is also not easy when you have because invariably between people there are conflicts, right? So you have to balance both, right? See, whatever it is that you need, right? I think, and the spouse is an amazing partner anyway, right? Having their support. I've been incredibly lucky, right? I ran with no money for 8, 9 plus years, right? When they say no money, absolutely no money, right? 10,000, 20,000, 25,000, right? For a long, long time. Till 2020 or so, I think my salary was 25,000 or so that I took from the company. So very little money. My wife never questioned me. So incredibly lucky that she supported. So I think a spouse understanding that helping you. I mean, in your case, wonderful.
So let's talk about your competition, and then we'll wrap up into some lessons for entrepreneurs. But you have competition from Amul, you have competition from Heritage, and a lot of other dairy brands. Amul does 90,000 crore of business every year. Where is Sits Farm at, and how do you deal with this competition?
Yeah. I mean, we rather than looking at it as purely as competition, obviously there is competition. I mean, you are taking somebody's market, whether it is Amul's or some unorganized player or somebody else's market. I mean, you are making space for yourself. So, I mean, we look at that as much as possible, try and bettering ourselves, right? How do we do what we are doing better? How do we communicate better so customers will support us, will give us that price point? And how do you also give people the value, right? If you continue to drive value, see, one of the examples that I'll give is, for a long time, our products, right? Even if you look at our products, there are some good number of products that are fairly expensive. So we have to actively go out and tell people that this is what it costs to produce it. This is what it. But recently, because as we are scaling, we are also constantly looking for efficiencies within ourselves. We've recently introduced a product called toned milk, where we were able to utilize some of the efficiencies of the factory and do it at a price point that more people can actually take up that product. Obviously, we have very, very specialized products, and people, but there are people, we are also trying to create products that a lot more people can, sort of reach, right? So it's constant discovery of, what do you do to make sure people are able to, come to us and see the value and.
So from the sounds of it, it looks like you don't look at competition too much. You try to make yourselves better every single day.
Learn from everybody, right? I think Amul has built an amazing company, right? Every dairy, right, have, every dairy's journey. Amul is a 70 years journey so far, right? It's not been easy journey. Hudson, largest private dairy of South India, Heritage, all of them are driving excellence in their own sphere, right? I think it's important to learn from each other, learn from the best, also try and create your own rules where you are pushing your own boundaries and learn.
Okay, wonderful. So we are a young nation, we have a lot of young people sitting here as well. So what could your advice be to a 21-year-old entrepreneur in terms of what sort of segments that they should look at? So if you were 21, hypothetically now, what sort of businesses you would start and where would you start from?
See, the energy of India right now is you can take up any field. You can take up anything and do it well, and there is a market for it in India now, right? I think that's the opportunity in India, right? You can just, you can take up any field. Do it better, there's an opportunity. The consumption is on the rise. As an economy, we are doing extremely well. There are problems, right? It's not all a roller coaster in India. We still have a bunch of things to figure out. But this is the push, right? You do the push, things get better, right? I mean, don't worry about the problems. That is not our sphere of influence, right? We can complain all about the traffic, all about government, all about that, this, right? It doesn't matter, right? Take up one problem, you solve that, you be at it. I think you can create a wonderful, this is part of building India in our own way,
Yeah.
right? I think there's a lot of opportunity, right? Any field.
So what you're saying is acha kaam karo, right? Do good work,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then people will resonate with that. And I think I can also relate to that.
Yeah.
When I came back to India and when we started Fokarma, we looked at offices and we felt, why are these offices so boring?
Yeah.
Why aren't these offices lively, right? And then we said we will create an office space which looks better, which feels better, where people would want to go and work.
Yeah.
And I think that resonated with our customers as well.
Well, see, I would have loved to, when I started Sinsfarm, have a place like this. There was a support structure, right? 2013, we operated from the farm. While I was driving back, if there was a space like this where I would sit for a few hours, it would have been wonderful, right? So, I think there's so much to do in India, right? And every space, every sphere, I think amazing things can be done.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kishore. I think I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. There were a lot of learnings. I hope the audience enjoyed as well. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the floor for audience questions, take a few questions from there, and then we'll do a group photo and then pass it on to Tarun.
Thank you, Tarun, for the opportunity. Thank you, guys, for, so many people, coming, all of you coming, taking time and coming, to listen to us. Yeah, thank you.
Can you have a huge round of applause for Kishore, please?